Because what happened yesterday is we went from gratitude, which is being aware of the blessings of Allah, and how that actually shows up in the way that you operate in the world. Does that make sense? That's kind of what we covered yesterday. Yeah. So now, using the slide which is on the screen now, I want to kind of remind everyone that when you're praying, that prayer is meant to be reconnecting you with Allah, which is very important. Now, you probably already know this, but then again, it's just that there's that gap usually where we kind of know that prayer is like meant to be connecting us to Allah, and then it does connect us to Allah, but then there's the actual belief of how much the way that you approach your prayer will kind of tell you how much belief you have in that prayer reconnecting you with Allah. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's kind of what I tried to explain on this slide, which I've got on the screen now, which is that the power of the activation, because the spiritual practice is what gives you the activation, isn't it? Yeah, that's what gives you the realization which you didn't know before. That's what changes you. That's why we pray 5 times a day, because then you become aware of Allah in a way that before that you weren't really that aware of Him. So this practice of praying salah is designed to strengthen our belief. Yeah, because obviously we know that Allah created us, but the question really is not so much whether you know that as a fact. It's more like how well do you believe that. Yeah, Anand, can you just mute that background noise, please? Anyway, so it depends how well you believe that. So that's what requires the practice. So does that make sense to everyone? Okay, good. So let me see what I've written here, man. Yeah, so I've kind of gone through what's on the slide, haven't I? Beliefs are solidified using the practice, like praying or gratitude. And like I think just before the call even started, I think when Hamdan gave his little speech today to Ian, even then that's very important just to realize that the prayer is actually what what will connect you with Allah, and it's something which is going to be quite an experience. So something we should be open to that. We should be open to that idea and be aware of how we can actually enhance our prayer. And obviously that's what we get a chance to do in Ramadan, because if it wasn't Ramadan, we probably wouldn't spend an hour every day trying to figure that out. Does that make sense? But that's an important point, to just realize the power of the prayer and the power of doing gratitude every day. The power of there's a third course on the YouTube channel, which is the power of dua. And it's a 5-day course. It's about 10 minutes. It's quite a deep kind of course, so you probably would have to do it several times to actually fully appreciate. So there's a lot of process involved, which is kind of figuring out your dua. So what we did yesterday is I'm going to stop there and just look at the slide for a minute. And just based on that, I just want to clear up any of the confusions which anybody had because of what we discussed yesterday. Is that right with everyone? Anything which kind of we discussed yesterday which didn't make 100% sense or needs a bit more clarification, because I know some people got a bit confused yesterday, and also afterwards I actually spoke to some other people as well, and it's quite obvious why that confusion came about. It does require more explanation, that kind of thing, definitely. And yeah, man, anyone got any questions on the mic? Sisters can use the chat. Yes, Faizan, are you unmuting? No, Faizan's not saying anything. Anyway, Abdullah, assalamu alaikum. Which Abdullah is this? Sorry, I've got too many friends called Abdullah, man. Oh, it's my nephew, Gus Smith from Chelmsford. Alhamdulillah, man. Good to have you, man. No, sorry, I was just checking which Abdullah you were, because I thought you might be the other one. Okay, no questions. Okay, let's carry on, man. Sure. So what I wanted to do today is to kind of solve this problem, a little bit of a problem. So just to recap for, I think, Shehbaz, who wasn't here yesterday, maybe a couple of other brothers weren't here yesterday. So one of the problems that came about is that when we come on, start thinking about what we want to actually achieve, and then you don't know, we kind of get a bit confused. Yeah, because we like to know things. So I think naturally that's what caused that. That's something which can cause a problem. That why am I not knowing what I want? We do, and then I think somebody else even went yesterday. They were kind of very. Somebody else was like very insistent on knowing what they want. Yeah. So those kind of conversations happen. So now, how do we solve this problem? And I think from the first day of Ramadan, I've been discussing this. Even those of you who've been here from before Ramadan, and when we started discussing how we have unconscious energy. Who remembers that course? So how many of you were here for the unconscious energy class before Ramadan? Who's me? Oh, Fadil, alhamdulillah, man. Anyone else was here for that? So this was before Ramadan when we went through that. But what I'll do at the end of today, inshallah, we'll do a little exercise which will get everyone in touch with the unconscious energy again. But basically what happens, even if I say that you don't know, when you stop putting yourself in a state of knowing, and you're open to being wrong, and it's a bit scary at first. So the way to do that is now, if you can look at the slide again, and I think that number one of the best methods is to ask empowering questions. Yeah, and this is going to go right back to day 1 of Ramadan, and day 2, and I think every day. One of the main things, and if you're doing the YouTube courses, the main quality which the YouTube course develops within you is, who wants to have a guess, man? Some of you should know the answer to this. What's the front end of passion, of purpose? Oh, that's a good answer, man. It's not technically wrong, but it's not the answer I'm looking for as well. Gratitude leads to it as well. No, man. So this is the thing which solves the problem. What's the problem? The problem knowing usually is knowing. Yeah. So let me just go back to the exercise. So yesterday the exercise was, what do you want? And then you're like, yeah, I know what I want. And then I'm telling you, you don't know what you want. Yeah. And then there's that resistance. That of course I know what I want, because we know what we want. Or to some extent, we don't like to give up control and submit and give up to Allah. So this is what I call, this is that resistance, that I know what I want. So how do we get around that now? Yeah. So the problem is knowing. Has everyone got that? How do you solve the problem of knowing? We've done this quite a few times, man. The answer's on the screen. Questions. So the front end of curiosity is the question. Yeah? So as soon as we start asking the question, that's when we actually start going in the right direction, because now we're starting to work with where we are. So there's this space between where you are and kind of this, what we put on our speedometer has 100% connection to Allah. Yeah? But how do we get from where we are and get beyond that space? So one of the best answers would be to start making sure your activations are getting better, making sure that you're praying kind of up levels, making sure that your gratitude is consistent, making sure that you do these things every day. And then there's the process of figuring out what you actually need to do, so you make sure you do the right things. And while you're going through this process, to make sure that you don't fall back into the trap of thinking that you know. Because every time you get a bit better at connecting to Allah, you're going to be like, yeah, I've got this now. Like, I didn't know this before, and now I know this. And we start, like, I think we can teach everyone now. And then sometimes, Assalamu alaikum, Alpha. Good evening. Lovely to have you here, Alpha. Alpha, can you hear me? Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum assalam. Beautiful to have you here, man. Alpha's my personal trainer, for anybody who wants to know. He's a British Army trainer. He's training the British Army. And then he decided to train me for a bit. So alhamdulillah, man. I always love it when he comes, man. Yeah, man. He's an amazing person, man. So good to have you. So good to have you here, man. Alhamdulillah. Anyway, man. Sorry, I just thought I'd check the chat. Yeah, Alpha, you want to say something? Okay, if you can keep your mic off, because there's a bit of background noise from your area. Jazakallah, man. Anyway, man. So here's some on the screen. There's some examples of empowering questions. So these questions are what, when we start asking yourself these questions. So this will help you get a bit more in touch with your spirit. So, An example of one of one of the main questions of gratitude is like what's going right. Yeah, this goes back to even the basis of like the gratitude event of when we have the half bottle of water. You can either choose to look at the half which is full, or you can look at the bit which is missing. So there's a lot to do with what you focus on. Yeah. So now, very often in life, we tend to focus more on like very disempowering questions. So I just want to start off with the positive, which is to start with the empowering question. And this obviously then becomes the front end of your curiosity. When you ask that question, you now go into that, you leave that place of knowing, and you're able to now enter that space knowing that you're going to have to learn before you get better, before you become good at this. So these questions are useful. So for example, why did Allah create me? Now we ask this a lot. Now obviously, logically, when we went to madrasa, and those of you that have teachers and learn to read the Quran and learn all Islamic stuff, we kind of get taught that He created you and for a purpose, and created you for a reason to achieve something. Yes, who's someone going to speak? Oh no, someone's connecting. Sohail Noor Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum. Shehzad is here. Sister Gulsan is here as well. MashaAllah. Rayan, I didn't say salam to you by the way. Nice to have you. Okay, good man. Is everyone on board, yeah? So now I want everyone here to be able to have some questions which you can ask yourself to get rid of this knowing, because curiosity is going to be the front end. And going back to the very first 2 points, the two main obstacles of taqwa. Number one is knowing, and number two is being busy. Yeah, so we should remember this from the first lesson. The main obstacle, one of them is knowing. It's going to this is consistently going to like hold you back, and as will being busy, because once you think you know everything, then like you think you know what to do as well. So then your schedule becomes like a bit random. So that's why curiosity then gets rid of that knowing. So now we start making this kind of a project which we're working on. So why did Allah create me, for example? So now this brings me back in touch that why did Allah create me? Like, why am I on this earth? It's a very important question. And what is my gift to share? Like we said yesterday, Allah created the world and the human beings, especially more so, in His image. So with qualities of Allah within every one of them. So like, what are those qualities which we're trying to manifest? How can I serve the world? So now, yesterday when this is Mia here? Where's brother Mia? Mia, are you here? I don't think you made it today, man. Okay, but oh, you are here. Who are you? Oh, you are here. You're here. Assalamu alaikum. Good to have you, man. Yeah. So when Mia asked like, how can we then grow our business, for example, and I think this is where most of the confusion came in yesterday, because we don't always consider our job to be like so important. But it's actually like that's the key thing. If what you spend most of your life doing is what's going to be have a big effect on your spirit. So if you do something which is of service, to serve the world, using those qualities of Allah which are within you to make the world better in some way. So in Brother Mia's case, I think we had somebody who drives a taxi. They have a very important responsibility of getting people to wherever they need to go. Somebody might be stuck at the Chelmsford train station and need to get all the way down to Rittle. And how they're going to, if they start walking, it's going to take them like 2 hours. Isn't it, Brother Mia? But Brother Mia says, no man, you just give me a tenner and I'll do it for you. Yeah, and then it will take you 10 minutes. So he solves this big problem. And this is like, it's important to be aware of how you make the world better. That's why we ask the question of what gifts are you giving to the world. And the last question, I'm sorry man, as you can see I haven't proofread this slide from the last slide. But there's 3 questions there which are very powerful, I think. If any of you want to write them down or anything, they're very good. But obviously once you start asking the right questions, you get into the right place. Now I want to come back to the default, which is where most of us kind of usually live our lives. For example, if you turn the TV on, you'd probably like have some show going on with people talking about how many problems there are in the world and how it's so bad. And then we turn the news off and then we talk about it to each other like, this is so bad, like this thing is going wrong, and then we become like a machine of spreading, like stress spreading machines. And we do this without even realizing sometimes. Like we just ask the question, what's going wrong, and then we start telling everyone as if it's the most important information in the world. And naturally, our brains pay about 5 times more attention to that anyway. You know, by default, because in terms of evolution, if the people who were chilling out and just chilled out when the lion came along, if they all survived, then they're the ones that died basically. The ones that survived were the ones who went, oh yes, this is really bad, let's all run away. And if the quicker you can do that, the more you tended to survive. So again, we have a trait to just identify what's wrong. So that's why when we're driving past an accident, it's so exciting to see like how many people died today in this accident. Why? Because we need to. Brother Mia, can you just turn your mic off, please, if you don't mind? Sorry, I think it's Hassan Rafiq. I don't know who Hassan Rafiq. Assalamu alaikum, Hassan Rafiq. How are you? Who's Hassan Rafiq? Are you from? Oh, sorry. You can remain anonymous, Hassan Rafiq. Sorry, man. I thought. Anyway. So the default, yeah. The default here we have. So the default that we have is usually asking a disempowering question. So now yesterday, for example, where we got a bit stuck was if usually we're asking what's going wrong with the world, then instead you do a gratitude exercise and now you're asking what's going right, what's going good, then that's what will start giving you that power over what you actually have to do. And we'll come to that in a minute, why that's so important. But these are the common questions. So why is my life so difficult? Because, or who can I blame? So usually we like to blame someone. So we all nowadays we like to blame Donald Trump. Like I was talking to one person here, I think before Ramadan, and he was really stressed. This person. Wa alaikum salam, Isam. How are you, man? MashaAllah, thank you for demonstrating how you should enter our meeting. So you come in, you turn your video on, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and then you join our meeting. These are the etiquettes of joining a majlis, especially for brothers. If you're wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Who's this? Q. Oh, it's Abdul Quddus. Nice to have you, man. Chill, man. Relax, man. It's good to have you. Alhamdulillah. Don't worry, you'll pick up, man. You're a clever guy. You studied with me. It's all right. Hassan Rafiq, who's this, man? Okay. Anyway, chalo, man. Alhamdulillah. It is nice to know who's here, and especially if you're a brother, your camera shouldn't be off, man, because then I can't see what you're doing. You might be sleeping. That's not very good, is it? Because if you're sleeping and not paying attention, then I can't tell you off for sleeping and not paying attention, because I won't be able to check because your camera's off. Everyone who's got their cameras off, Fadil, Rashad, Shahbaz Sheikh, Shahzad, Rayyan Akhtar, Hassan Rafiq. I don't know, are you guys very shy? Anyway, man, chalo, I'll let you off, man. You're lucky I'm in a good mood. So, okay, those are some of the bad questions. I love the way you all show up now, alhamdulillah. Lovely to see your face, Sohail Noor, man. Cherno, man. Anyway. So these are some of the things that happen. Then we start blaming, like the world around us. And it's not good to blame the world, because then you take the power away. You've forgotten how much. Especially this last point on the slide. Like especially some cultures, they have a very bad obsession with the way that they think jinns control humans. And then they give their whole life's control away to some jinn, which they think is controlling them. And they forget that they were meant to be in control. If you're connecting with Allah, and you're getting Allah's help to control your life, then jinns and these other spirits are not going to be able to, over control you, because you're in control. And the angels are obviously there to help you as well. We forget like how much control you're meant to have over your life, and we give it away to other people. So anyway, man, does that make sense to everyone? Any questions or anything anyone wants to say? MashaAllah, people. Oh, mashallah. That's good, man. Alhamdulillah. So, hey, Noor Muhammad's gone off again. Abdul Quddus, have you not put your makeup on today? Hey, I know. Okay, man. Okay. Yeah, so as a warning for tomorrow for everyone, I know some of you might not be appropriate. What a brilliant way to describe yourself, Abdul Quddus. So for tomorrow, please, in preparation for the lesson, in preparation for connecting to Allah, in preparation for working on your spirit, please try and do wudu, wash your face, put some cream on, put some makeup on, and make sure you're ready for the camera tomorrow, inshallah. Because it's important, man, to be ready. Assalamu alaikum, Wissam. How are you? Nice to have you here, man. I'm just doing a talk. I'm just currently talking about the importance of brothers turning their cameras on, and it's turning into like the whole lesson has just been a lecture on the importance of having your camera on. But anyway, man, so now basically, I'm just warning everyone that for tomorrow they have to make sure they're ready for being in their camera. So like basically you do wudu, and you make sure you're kind of ready for the lesson. Just like, for example, if you're about to recite Quran, you wouldn't do it in your pajamas. You'd make sure you've put some proper clothes. That's why some people like to cover their head. Some people say it's from the Sunnah. It's not necessarily even from the Sunnah. But like sometimes, we grow up with being taught that when you're about to meet Allah, you try and make sure you've presented yourself in a suitable way. So that's why I definitely recommend that. Maulana Hassan Rafiq. Sorry, man. I was calling him Hassan Rafiq as... MashaAllah. He's also a... Anyway, sorry, Hamdan. What are you saying? True, man. True, Hamdan. I agree with you, man. I think I should as well. Yeah, so you pray Asr and come in. But I think these things are very, very important, man. And you keep that in mind. And then also eye contact as well. So if I can make eye contact with you and see whether you're even awake, it makes a big difference as well, man. Rather than you guys sleeping. Anyway, man, I'm sure you've all got good excuses for keeping your cameras off. I'm not judging you. I'm just giving you some encouragement. Anyway, so basically, just to summarize yesterday's kind of little thing which happened, is that when we do gratitude, we'll become empowered. We'll realize that it's our decision. All you have to do is reach forward, go like this, press the button, and the camera comes on. And once you do that, the amount you benefit from the lesson shoots up to another level. So then next time you make sure that you don't turn. Then next time for next lesson you make sure that you've actually prepared for the lesson. You've got your makeup all on. You've done wudu. You're actually ready to connect to Allah. So so this is what happens when we take that little bit of action. We notice that kind of change. So that's what gratitude does, man. It gives you that power. I think there was something I wanted to talk about before we move on to the practice for today. Yeah, man. I guess there's this slide here. I was going in the right order. So has everyone got the slide? Yeah. Because Hamdan's from Pakistan, he chose green today. But anyway, so we can connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is like a belief which obviously we have. Alhamdulillah, all of you have this belief on a very deep level, I'm sure, that we can connect with Allah. But one of the things that does is that one of the things that does is that if you're connecting with Allah, you'll actually appreciate how everyone else is connecting to Allah. Yeah, so like if, for example, I'm going to read through some of the names. If Ian is connecting to Allah, and then Anan and his dad, they start connecting to Allah a bit, then these two, they'll be able to see how much Alpha and Modu and Faizan with his pickle and Wissam and Mia and Humdan and Abdullah and Suhail Noor are also connecting to Allah. Does that make sense? So then now it stops being such an abstract thing because you see it a lot more physically. So like maybe not so much on this call, but when you're at home, if you're connecting with Allah, and then you'll notice your wife also connecting with Allah, and you notice what that means in a slightly more wider context, because essentially that will mean that you're slightly more connected as well. It kind of connects you to to not only Allah but also the people around you to some extent. And then when you kind of become aware of this, the reason I like to focus on dua, also, as well as praying, you focus on your praying, but also focus on dua as well, because dua will get you in touch with how Allah kind of answers your dua. Does that make sense? So then now, like we mentioned yesterday, Allah's already made a plan for your life. It's a pretty good plan as well, man. And Allah made it. Like again, this is where the beliefs come back. And if you, depending on how much you believe in Allah, if you believe Allah created the whole world and the sky and like everything around you, and He created you, and then He created a plan for your life as well, then it's when you put it into context, that's when you're able to really, take it home. And then you make dua, and your dua is to get yourself aligned with Allah's plan, as opposed to trying to force home what you think you want. That's why the questions are important, man. So Allah, obviously, we believe He works in mysterious ways, but also what mysterious ways means when it comes in the Quran. There, وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. I think is where we talk about it, isn't it? Like people planning and then Allah's planning. And realizing that because He's the best planner, like His plan's going to be a bit deeper than your plan. Like your plan might be like, I want to get £1 million by next year, or whatever. But then Allah's plan is a bit more complex than that. Like Allah's plan won't move you like in the way that you think you're going to get £1 million, or that's probably not really even a suitable goal for most of you spiritual seekers anyway. But whatever your goal is, especially while we're in this kind of class, like you might think there's a certain way for you to get there. But dua is meant to like get you to be more aware of how Allah plans to get you there. Does that make sense? That's why yesterday's question of what do you want is very important, because then you're then working with your spirit. Does that make sense? Gee man, you guys speak, man. You just want me to speak. Everyone's gone very quiet now. Oh, thank you, man. Alhamdulillah, man. Mm. Mm. Wow, that's deep, man. Yeah. Oh, brother Ian, let me share it, man. Let me be a part of this as well, man. And then you can tell me whether I get it right. So he was in holiday in Morocco, and he thought, like, let's learn some Arabic. I don't think I'm going to say it as good as you are. You might as well repeat it, man. Mm. Yeah, I think that. Okay. Yeah, I think when Abdullah was here yesterday as well, we've got three Abdullahs who come, my nephew, then there's Abdullah, the Nigerian one, and then there's Abdullah who came yesterday, Abdullah Mutakabbir. So I think what he said, just so that you remember which conversation. So when Abdullah, I was speaking with him. No, sorry, this was Kauthar from Chamsun actually. So yesterday when he said that just realizing when Allah's speaking, or when your spirit's speaking, sometimes that's going to be a bit more quiet, and you might not always notice. So then doing something like gratitude is extremely important, because what is gratitude? Is to notice what you don't normally notice, isn't it? So now when you do that, then you actually get in touch with what's there. Anyway, so before we move on, Assalamu alaikum Shahzad, are you there? I don't know the Shahzad. Fadil, are you there? Brother Rashad, Shahbaz, are you just listening, yeah? Or are you just passive, anonymous? Are you falling asleep, maybe? Shahbaz, Brother Shahbaz from Chelmsford. Are you there, Shahbaz? Shahbaz, no? Brother Rashad? Brother Rashad's gone as well. Okay, this... Anyway, man. So, man, let's carry on. Oh, Rashad, you're here. Assalamu alaikum, Rashad, man. How are you, man? Are you okay? Alhamdulillah, man. Good to have... Okay, good. Good to have you, man. Thank you, man. I need your feedback as well, man. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused. Shehzad, are you there? I'm not sure if Shehzad is there. I think Shehzad and Shahbaz have fallen asleep, I think. it was so deep they drowned. No, I'm joking. Shahbaz, are you there? Oh, alhamdulillah, man. Are you following, yeah? Have you... Okay, good to have you, man. Shehzad, are you there? No, I think... Okay. And it's good to have all the sisters, man, as well, man. I know the sisters have a right to stay anonymous. The brothers don't. That's the problem. So, has everyone understood this slide, yeah? Should we move on? We need to be able to allow the plan of Allah to emerge. So now we're gonna. So now what happens when we do all this stuff here? We figure out the next step a little bit easier, and this is kind of what yesterday was about, and the day before, which is where we get to that action point. And then brother Mia, are you still here? Yes, Mia's here. So Mia then asked that, what's the next step? This is a big question. So now Mia brought a nice example of what did he bring? He wanted to build his business, for example. So let's say, I think for most people, the number one thing when you ask what you want, money comes up. Now, obviously, I teach that money is not an end goal. It's not something you're meant to chase. It's not something you're meant to run after. Money is very important. Like, when money starts coming up, it's very important because it helps you fund all the stuff that you do. Without money, it'd be difficult to live your life. But it's not like the thing you're meant to chase. Yeah. So if you've got money as end goal, you're kind of chasing the wrong thing, which is a bit of a problem. Does that make sense? Now, when you bring gratitude into it, you start figuring out more where you are. Yeah. And then you realize, now, obviously, you have to have this gratitude for your service. So I think a couple of days ago, and this is on YouTube, you know that really long message I sent to everyone? I sent it on WhatsApp, so Ian, you wouldn't have got it because, but I'll send you via SMS as well. But the message I sent on WhatsApp, the second video in there, is where we kind of go through. When I asked you all the question, what are you proud of? Do you remember? So then you guys trying to figure out that question. Now, why that question is so important is because when you figure out what you're proud of at the moment, then you're able to realize how you can just take the next step to take that to the next level. And also because it's a gratitude exercise, you realize how Allah helped you in that way, to where you already are. And then now the next step becomes just that more clear. How I answered Mia's question was a bit complex. But again, now you're looking at your service. How do I help people the most? Okay, I get people from A to B much quicker. And I get it comfortable. If it's raining, they get there dry. Okay, wow, that's what I do at the moment. How do I take that to the next level? Well, that's what you have to start thinking about. So now you might have to provide a better conversation, maybe. Maybe this is not like the main thing you want to do to serve the world. Maybe you actually want to help serve the world in a different way. So this thing, which is you're doing at the moment, like this is what will happen to a lot of people. Like you'll realize that the job that if you're working for Coca-Cola and you're in their marketing department, you might want to change your job. If you keep coming here, because it's not going to help your spirit to lie to the world about sugar. But anyway, man, my war on sugar would be supermarkets are a different problem, man. You could, I don't think M&S are. No. I don't think M&S is as big of a problem as Coca-Cola, because M&S, because at the same time when you think like M&S, like people like Abdullah, who usually we think, they've got those minimum wage jobs. Now we don't think that, do we? When you walk into Tesco, because you're sitting at home doing nothing, and he's the one there making sure that you've actually got some food on your table. No. I'm not getting offended, man. I'm just getting. I forgot what you were saying now, man. What were we saying, huh? Okay, man. Where were we though? I've forgotten where we were. Oh yeah, so the gratitude will bring that awareness that, like, now even somebody, like, sometimes we think you can only be grateful if you're like a doctor, or you've got like $1 million business, or you've got like a charity which is solving a water shortage in the world, and we forget what you're already doing, which is going to Marks and Spencer in Abdullah's case, and stocking the shelves so people can actually eat food, and live their lives. And you might realize when you start thinking about this that there's a bigger thing you can do as well. So as well as stocking the shelves in Marks and Spencer, like, you can also, like, I don't know, be nice to your brother, or look after your parents, or look after your, or like be friends with your kids, for those of you that are parents. And then you realize how that changes the world. And then you realize that there's certain things which you need to have in order to be able to do that. For you to connect people to Allah, the number one prerequisite is for you to be connected to Allah. So that's going to be like a very important aim. If you think that that's going to help you, then you're going to have to work on that a little bit. So for example, even in Mia's case, if you want to take your business to the next level, you're going to have to realize what is Allah's plan for your business. Like, how are you going to help people? How are you going to make your kids more connected to Allah? How are you going to be able to take yourselves in a more purpose-driven kind of life, where you're actually aware of why you exist? Does that make sense? As opposed to kind of thinking that you're a mistake. Yeah, man. And so the two things which will help with this is your prayer and your dua, really. And the prerequisite for dua kind of making sense is gratitude to some extent. So those three things, those are the 3 courses on YouTube. But anyway, man. Yeah, man. And this just kind of cements it a bit more, I guess. If today's main tool was empowering questions, so I don't think I might not have spent enough time on that. But if the main tool was this slide, which is where you ask, why did Allah create me? What gifts of Allah, what qualities of Allah am I manifesting? How can I serve the world? When you start asking those questions, then your dua will become a bit more clear of what you're actually going to do next. And then you realize that it's not always like, you might not know what is actually, like, the plan you have is made and decided by the companies with the biggest marketing budgets. Very often. Well, those are the adverts that we see most of the time. Those are the people that choose how the physical world kind of operates, isn't it? So the pharmaceuticals will try and tell you, as much as you might try and deny it, that for you to stop being depressed, a good idea might be to try some drugs. And like, even your local drug dealer might have that as his remit as well. Does that make sense? That in order to solve problems in your life, you need to try this thing, man. But really, in reality, there's Allah's there to make it better. So then when you ask the questions, like, you do actually have to listen for the answer as well. Yeah, that's why questions are very, very powerful, man. So I'd recommend, for those of you that want to actually try, the MIQ is powerful. So any MIQ, that's why I brought most important questions up for all spiritual stuff. But also here, any empowering question, just to get you more in touch with why you even exist. And then it's important to then listen for the answer. Like Ian said, like, sometimes you'll be getting answers when you're not even asking the question. And if you're not doing gratitude, you're not going to be noticing any of the answers in the first place. So you're not going to understand dua. Does that make sense? When you're in touch with what Allah is giving you and how Allah works, then you can try and think that your du'as you're going to understand the answer to the questions that you're asking. Anyway, man. Yeah, man. I think this is a bit too much. I wanted to move on to the practice today. We've only got 10 minutes, so I just want to do a practice, inshallah. Any questions about today's lesson? That's the end of the theory. I want to move into the practical. No one questions yet. Let's move on then, man. So I just want to do a quick what we usually do in our Gulthar's here. How are you, man? Kaz Uddin. Nice to have you here, man. Hi, Kaz. No worries, man. Sure. Alhamdulillah, good to have you here, man. We just went through a bit of the stuff we went through yesterday. I went through one of the things which you said yesterday. Yesterday you said, like, that when Allah's speaking, or when your spirit's speaking to you, it will be quieter than your logical mind. And I think the point of today's lesson was to kind of go from always using logical mind to not using your logical mind so much, and actually allowing the answers to come in. So to understand this point, this is my recap of the lesson, everyone, by the way. Brother Ian started the lesson off, and what he said was that when he was in Morocco, and trying to learn Arabic, the first thing he asked was, how do you say that? Sorry, what did you say, Ian? I'll let Ian say it himself, man. So that just happened to be his first question. So now, if you look at this in the context of today's lesson, that's the answer which Allah is giving you. When you do gratitude, or when you say, what am I proud of, or what's going right, these things will start coming up more and more. So now you actually notice what Allah has given you. So Allah just gave you, without you even noticing, an opportunity to realize something really important. Yeah. Now, when you start asking the right questions, now you'd realize what are actually the answers. So now dua is kind of a question. We ask Allah for something. Bujini? And now when we go through with this, now when you're asking a question, if you're good at noticing answers, when you do gratitude, you'd be much better at noticing the answer. Does that make sense? So now when you come to dua, I would definitely recommend the 5-day dua course. For those of you that still haven't bothered to try it out, it's 5 days of your life and it's going to take 10 minutes every day. So you might have to schedule that. Now you probably have learned by now that you think you know what you need to do and you're probably trying to do all these things. But very often you might be struggling to actually make a habit. So you need to get good at making habits, basically. So you might need to schedule these things. So if that means making a reminder on your calendar. So firstly, you ask the question, what's even important in your life? What's number one priority? And if you're doing nothing to connect to Allah every day, or you're just going with the flow, and there's not really anything which you're actually able to manifest in terms of a change, then you're not going to be able to become that person who you need to become, because you're not even aware of who you are. Anyway, man. Sorry, I don't know what to call you, man, because I've called you Rohit my whole life. And now I know everyone else probably knows yours. These Bengalis with their home names, man. Anyway, alhamdulillah. Okay, man. So that's just a summary of today's lesson. Before we finish, I just want to do a bit of Quran recitation. We're going to start with breathing, actually. So what I want to do as a practical is notice unconscious energy. So this is the title of this exercise. What's the title? Noticing unconscious energy. You should all know this. So you should all say this. Everyone turn your mics off and say that the title of this exercise is Noticing Unconscious Energy. Yes, Cherno, still sleeping. Shehzad, have you woken up? Rayan, G, mics off. Rashad, come on Rashad, man. Shehzad, Cherno, slow. Quddus. Faizan, Homdan. What's the title of this exercise? See, look, the people are not paying enough. Noticing unconscious energy. See how you're not even learning the title. Good, that's better. Rashad, are you there? Shehbaz is gone as well. Shehbaz, are you there? Brother Shehbaz? Okay, so what I'm asking everyone to do is turn their mics on and say the title of the exercise, so we know what the title of the exercise is. Well, so, good. And the rest of you who are too shy to even respond, make sure you say it out loud so you're aware of what's going on here. Otherwise, you're going to be half asleep, man. Gee, what's the title of the exercise, everyone? Now you can keep your mics off now. Good. So make sure you turn your mics off. Now say it out loud so you're aware of what's going on. So you're going to notice this unconscious energy which exists between you and starting to learn a new thing. So we're going to start with breathing, yeah? Oh yes, we're all experts on breathing, aren't we? Right, so basically there's a lot to learn about how to breathe. Gee, mics off please. Mics off please. Mics off please. So I'm just going to start with bringing attention there. So how are you breathing at the moment? You don't know. So I'm just going to ask you to bring attention there. How are you breathing at the moment? Just think about it for a minute. Give 10 seconds for the answer to come. While I read the chat. You don't worry about what's happening here. You just worry about this question. What's the question? How are you breathing at the moment? Gee, make sure you ask the right question, man. And say it out loud as well. That'll help you. Because some of you... There's a rainbow. Where's the rainbow, man? Sorry, don't get distracted. You focus on the question. How am I breathing right now? Make sure you ask that question. Okay, good. So how am I breathing? Gee, so what's the answer, man? Probably don't know. So good. If to some extent we don't know, but then obviously like we don't want to not know forever. Like there's a skill set we're trying to develop here. So then now we come into the realm of being aware of your breathing to a much deeper level. So now you know where your breath is. I want you to now, the next time you breathe in, I want you to follow that breath through your nose. So the air is going to come in through your nose. It's going to hit your nostrils. And I want you to follow it into your body. So rather than, there's no force here. Like if you're all scared about this still, you might be, some of you will still be very scared of breathing. I appreciate that. Those of you that have studied longer with me, I guess you'll probably be better at this. But just notice, like, you should be able to feel the breath coming in. So all I'm asking you to do for now is next time you breathe in, every time you breathe in, notice the breath come in through your nose. It will come in through your nostrils. And then notice that breath. If you want to turn your cameras off, even the brothers, you're welcome to if you want to like have privacy and like concentrate on your breathing. But notice that breath coming in through your nose. And obviously the next step is to also notice it when it's coming out as well. Does that make sense to everyone? So now you're breathing in and you're not losing your concentration even when you're breathing out. See? So now the first thing I want just to come to notice that there's always going to be unconscious energy when it comes to learning about something if you think you're quite good at it or if you think you're even decent at it. So we're noticing that unconscious energy, that basically there'll be an energy there which you'll be a bit scared of. So you'll be like, oh, I know this. I don't want to go too deep onto this subject because like I don't need to go too deep on this. I don't need to spend any time on learning how to breathe because I'm already quite good at it. I've spent my whole life doing it. And the same thing happens when it comes to reading the Quran. I don't need to improve or like go deep on my Quran because I already know it. Same thing happens with Taqwa. Same thing happens with your connection with Allah. So basically we just start thinking that, we don't really need to think about these things. And so we don't go deep. So the problem very often with our Islam, with our connection with Allah, with our religion, is not that we don't know what we need to do or what we're meant to be doing. It's just that we don't go deep enough. We don't invest enough concentrated time on a consistent enough basis over a long enough period of time. It really isn't rocket science. There's not really that much to it. But if you've never thought about your taqwa level before, then if that's the first time, then obviously the more that you start thinking about it, the more. So this is just by doing that simple exercise, you will have noticed, what were we noticing? Unconscious energy. So you'll have noticed that when you try and learn something new, you're going to have that problem of knowing. So it's very important to be able to notice that. And now realize where we can actually go forwards. Does that make sense? Everyone got that, yeah? So it's good to realize where that unconscious energy is. And now, for those of you that are still, most of you have probably lost your concentration on your breath by now, isn't it? Or are you still in touch? But even in that time, the 2 minutes I've been speaking, we've done an exercise to get you in touch with your breath. You've already lost that. It improved you a bit, obviously, so it got you better, it got you more aware, but the effect that it had has already worn off because we're so naturally inclined to not being aware of what's going on and like chasing something in the world, because that's like every advert is trying to get you to chase something, man. And then even the teachers who teach you Islam, they're like, chase this, I'll give you this special feeling. They're just like chasing that feeling. Like it's not about anyway, man. Chalo, I think Hamdan is on the phone to someone or something. Well, what are you saying, Hamdan, about DFS? Oh, okay. Yeah, true, man. Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Sorry, man. Yeah. So again, mashallah, we have Hamdan, who kind of works for a Humanity Plus company like DFS, which alhamdulillah gives us great quality furniture, and at the same time, they deliver it even during the coronavirus, isn't it, Hamdan? That's why you're so busy nowadays. But then, like, when you realize that they've got this strategy to get you to get more, to tell you about the amazing things they do in the world. Coca-Cola have the same thing. So does the pharmaceutical lobby. And they do it for sugar. So you don't need sugar, but they tell you that you do enough so that you think you do. And when someone tells you the truth that you don't believe them. Because obviously it's not nice to. You can also call shaitan. Like Allah talks about shaitan a lot. That's why we're going to do this dua. This dua makes you aware of shaitan. Yeah, like Donald Trump and astaghfirullah, not Donald Trump. Like Coca-Cola, like companies which exist to ruin the world. Yeah, some countries which exist and all they do is destroy the planet. And they don't really think much about their consciousness or like what kind of responsibility they have. And very often then when it becomes down to marketing, the more you can invest back into your marketing, the one thing which triggers you, which gets you going, becomes what? Becomes money. Which is a useless thing to be chasing, because that's going to get you out of touch with what's actually going on. Anyway, man. Shall we read some Quran? So this is what happens when we try and concentrate for a little while, man. So I'm just gonna do this first dua. Sorry, man. I want you to read more Quran today. But I'm just gonna for those of you that are able to, just kind of become more aware of your breath again very quickly. And I'm going to read this word by word. Yeah, and each time we read a word, we're going to notice unconscious energy, because we're going to read the word in a way like we've never read it before. And it's going to push you to your... The point of being aware of unconscious energy is because you're meant to look out for it. Your pain is your growth. Taqwa is painful. So if you can notice, that I hated that, and you can chase it, then that becomes like you become so much quicker, man. You stop wasting time. So if you do the YouTube courses, it'll teach you how to just chase your pain, chase the things you don't like a bit more. Anyway, man, because you live in a world which makes you want to like things which are not good for you, man. Like Netflix and stuff. Like all these things, like your phone is designed to get you addicted to it as well. First word, sorry, man. Take a moment to get your breath. And just practice the first word. Notice the unconscious energy. Nearly everyone on this call will struggle with the letter Ain. Yeah, because it's not in the English language, it's not in the Urdu language, it's not in the Bengali language, it's not in hardly any language. So if it's the first time you're coming across this letter, just relax, man. Practice the letter Ain. Notice where it comes from. It comes from your throat. So I just want you to notice your throat involvement. Ain. You can keep your mics off. Just practice in your privacy. You can turn your cameras off if you want as well. Ain. Good. So now notice what part of your throat that comes from. It's not hard. And remember to breathe. And now you're going to say the letter Ain on your out breath. Yeah, don't worry too much about it. It's very easy. I'm going to say it and you're going to copy. Ain. Good. There's no force involved. It's not scary. And now all of the reason that you thought you had to force was because of your unconscious energy. Anyway, man. So just be aware of that. Try and go deeper into the unconscious. It's good. And just let it happen a bit more rather than trying to force it. Ain. So now it comes from the throat. Now you've noticed it. Now that's good. Now you've developed the skill of saying Ain. And now the Hamza, the first one. You might think you're very good at Hamza because that's easy. But just notice and make sure that when you're reading it, you're doing it with your breath, as opposed to forcing it. So, a. Okay, now it's simple. It's probably the easiest syllable of the whole Arabic alphabet. Everything you've learned about Arabic and Tajweed so far, this is probably the easiest thing. Yeah, the first thing we learn, a. And it is the easiest thing. It's very easy, alhamdulillah. Nothing to be scared of. But you might think that it's really hard. So, a. Good. And just remember noticing what happens with your lips, what happens with your mouth, what happens with your jaw. Remembering to breathe. And this time you've practiced enough now. Now we're not forcing anything. Now we're just going to notice how it happens. Does that make sense? So just remember to breathe. Don't rush. And notice which part of your mouth it comes from, what happens to your lips. So lips should be going wide. And then now we're just going to come back to the Ain sound. which is, as opposed to it's I. Everyone got that? Yeah, get comfortable with the ayn. Should be able to differentiate now between a hamza and a ayn, between an alif and a ayn. Okay, and this is important. Sorry, Wissam, man. I know you're an Arab. You're probably thinking, "Well, this guy, man, I know all this." But I think even for Arab speakers, obviously I have some clients who are native Arab speakers, and they have the same problem because when they still race through the Quran and they think it's a race. So this exercise really helps them as well. Anyway, so now we're going to make the O sound. So if you're looking at the screen, the second syllable, which is the ayn with the dhamma, O, again noticing where it comes from in the throat, remembering to breathe. O, good, yeah, O. Okay, now we're going to try and bring these together. We're going to do them separately first. O, and trying to keep as much of that unconscious energy at bay as possible, and not being scared of it. And when you stop being scared of it, you can just kind of go into it, as opposed to kind of trying to push it away. Very important. What's the title of this exercise, everyone? Noticing your unconscious energy. It's important to get into that, man. And then you chase that. You're allowed to chase some things, like you're taught what's good and bad, and you're meant to chase something. You're not meant to chase money though. That's one of the bad things which you can chase. The pursuit is obviously important to some extent, but pursuing the wrong things is where trouble comes. Innit, Salihah? Assalamu alaikum. Okay. MashaAllah. Okay, anyway, man. So, I get distracted myself, so then you guys all lose your concentration. We live in a world of distractions. And then the dhal, dhu. Good, I'm not worrying too much about it. Dhu. Good, remembering to breathe. Now trying to breathe into these three syllables. Dhu. Good. And this is a daily practice. So doing it, if you manage to do it at 6 o'clock, that's great. But you should also have scheduled it kind of into your life at some other point as well. And like I said, for those of you reciting lots and lots of Quran in Ramadan, at least as a minimum for every Muslim, 50% should be working on improving the way that you recite the Quran. I know some of you, mashallah, are probably already doing this. And I know probably Ian is probably well and truly, probably at 90, 100% probably just awakenings, which is mashallah good, man. Those of you that have the opportunity. But again, I'd definitely recommend getting more in touch with the process and realizing what you're learning, because sometimes we're a bit distant from the process, and then we slow down a bit, and then it's difficult to keep up. So if before the lesson you prepare, you do wudu, put your makeup on, make sure you're happy to be on camera, find some nice scenery, and wash your face and be ready to connect with Allah, and then it will help a little bit. And obviously, sisters definitely can stay behind the camera, but definitely getting a bit more involved with the audio as well, and using the chat facility. So Zoom has a chat facility as well, so you can go on the chat and get involved and ask questions and say stuff. And when you start doing that, that's when you'll start learning the quickest. That's what gives you autonomy. Yeah, what's autonomy? This is one of the things. So if there's two things we should be chasing: autonomy and curiosity. Those are very important. And your unconscious energy. So, but when you start chasing autonomy, yes, Hamdan, you're going to answer the question, what is autonomy? Thank you, man. It's good to get involved. You should be excited to answer the question, man. Yes, Sadie, okay. Sorry, Hamdan. Oh, okay. So who knows what autonomy is? Who remembers? Have you all forgotten? MashaAllah, everyone's forgotten, man. Okay, but this is why... Go on then. Yeah, basically, that's a good... basically put it on one word. So sometimes we kind of... we make ourselves dependent. Because it makes us feel safe to be dependent, doesn't it? Like as long as we're doing the 5 prayers. Because the problem is when we're kids, we're taught that... the way our parents teach us is they're like, if you don't pray, you're going to go to hell. So like we get scared of the whole praying thing. Because we think if we do something wrong, we're going to go to hell. Now, I know not everyone believes that on a different level, but I think to some extent nearly every Muslim has that belief to some level, which is actually quite destructive. Now we have to try and simulate what actually the point of this is, which is to get in touch with the process and realize that the mistake is where you grow, not where you go to hell. You're meant to be chasing that point which you think is actually hell. So that's a very important, transition. So now autonomy is what gives you that. Autonomy is when you say, okay, I'm on this thing where I have to learn to connect to Allah, and alhamdulillah I have a brain, and I have a spirit, and I have a heart, and all of these things are going to help me connect to Allah, and I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. So that way you actually decide your own schedule. You say 6 o'clock every day I'm going to have this class with this guy who, helps me connect to Allah. Then at another point I'm going to pray at this time, and that's going to help me connect to Allah, and getting in touch with what we're actually trying to achieve and realizing how much you're achieving it. Really, I was just wanting to do the first word for today on A'udhu Billahi. I was meant to do Bismillah as well, man, but I think we'll leave it there. Is that okay, inshallah? Because I don't like overrunning, man. I like being organized to some extent. I know I'm not, but I like to pretend I am. But Jazakallah, man. It was great to have you on, even those of you that are camera shy. And alhamdulillah, nice to have the sisters as well, and the comments in the chat and everything. Jazakallah for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam. Shehzad! Oi, Shehzad, you can't run away like that, man. Oi, Shehzad. Assalamu alaikum, Shehzad. Are you there? Are you? You are there. I've been calling you since the beginning of the lesson, man. How are you, man? What's going on? Oh, alhamdulillah, man. Good to have you, man. No, but then I'm... Oh, that's my niece. It's my brother's daughter. You okay, Salia? Yeah, she's getting a bit shy now. But yeah, man. Alhamdulillah, man.